Welcome to Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. It's like coffee with an analyst, or it could be whiskey with an analyst reading a spreadsheet, linking crime events, identifying a series, and getting the latest scoop on association news and training. So please don't beat that analyst and join us as we define the law enforcement analysis profession one episode at a time.
Thank you for joining me. I hope many aspects of your life are progressing. My name is Jason Elder, and today our guest has 8 years of law enforcement analysis experience, with 19 years of law enforcement experience overall. She is certified as a project management professional. She was also named the International Association of Police Chiefs Top 40 Under 40 in 2016. She's here to talk about her journey from analyst to real-time crime center director. Please welcome Jennifer Corum. Jennifer, how are we doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing very well. How is Louisville?
It's rainy right now.
It's raining in Louisville.
Or at least it was when I left the house this morning.
Now, do you say Louisville, or like how do you pronounce the city's name?
I say Louisville, but I've noticed that anytime I'm on conference calls with people outside of this region, I do have to say it Louisville because they don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know where the one where it sounds like you're like have a mouthful of marbles came about, but in spending time in both Cincinnati and Nashville, I have known enough people from the area to know that you call it Louisville.
Yeah.
So I also find it funny that I think it's really the only city in the country where seems to be this debate about how to pronounce the name. All right, Jennifer, let's start from the beginning. How did you discover the law enforcement analysis profession?
So I actually wanted to be a police officer initially, and I'm sure a lot of people go through that. I had applied after the last year of college, and kind of during that last year and into college, I had applied for several police departments. I had interned with customs at the time, and just wanted to be a police officer. Went through a lot of interviews. I had a hard time doing the push-ups. So I never was hired on. Did well in everything else but that. And then I saw this posting for LMPD that said crime analysis. And back then, because I'm old, I graduated college in 2005, and there were no classes at all in college about crime analysis or even what it was. Not like it is now, where they teach entire college classes and degrees and on specific mapping. And we didn't have that when I was in college for my criminal justice degree. And so whenever I saw this, it sounds silly to say now, but I had to Google what a crime analyst was, because we weren't taught that in college. So I Googled it. It sounded pretty cool. And I thought, well, I can get a job here. If I can get this, then maybe I can get on as a police officer. And so I was hired on with LMPD in 2006 in the summer. And I was one of 4 crime analysts at the time. I was the 4th one. And we, at that time, I mean, we're a pretty moderate sized city. I think at least now our population is about 750,000 ish, with like maybe 1.2 million in the region, or maybe back then that's what it was. I haven't looked at the population recently, but I was specifically hired on to do the UCR statistics. And so that was my primary role, and to get us NIBR certified. And so that was what I came in for, but we started doing compstat. I remember the very first day where I started, my supervisor, he was a civilian professional staff supervisor named Tim, had one of the best laughs ever. Sat me down for my very first day and then started reciting like the definitions of the different crimes in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I didn't really understand why we were going through that. I'm like, I did just graduate college. I kind of understand it now because you don't really learn the laws. At least we didn't when I was in college. But those first few years, I just really started to fall in love with the job and the people. It was just the 4 of us for 8 years. And then we ended up hiring a 5th analyst for a little bit there. But even now, I've been with LMPD now for 19 years, and those 4 analysts, the other 3 analysts that were here before me, they are still here with LMPD as well.
Nice.
They were on longer than I am. So 2 of us have gone into management, and the other 2 are statistical analysts for the department. So have you ever seen The Office?
Yes.
Where Andy says at the end, you don't know the good days until they're gone.
Yeah.
We had so much fun
Yeah.
back then. And I mean, we did every kind of law enforcement analysis that you can think of. For a while there, I did overtime analysis. And then they had me doing the overtime system, like where I had to do the personnel system, which wasn't analysis at all. But we did compstat maps, and then we would do call record details. Not too much of that, because at that time we didn't have a whole lot of interaction with detectives. We were pretty secluded, and we were at headquarters. So we had a lot of interaction with command, more so than officers when they were in the field or detectives during cases. But as that progressed, we would occasionally do real-time events or do sort of intelligence analysis on individuals potentially involved with groups. But on top of all that, I was still doing UCR stats, and then worked really hard to get it sniper certified. And then the year, it was maybe 2 months after I was promoted, we were sniper certified.
Nice.
And so the records manager who ended up getting us there, she kind of took over from where I was. It was like I kind of handed it over to her, and then we got it, and I was really happy.
Yeah.
So
Who are these 3 that are still there with you?
yeah, so Dan Gillespie, he was here, I think maybe 6 years before me. He's now a technology manager. Ryan Conrad, and then Brent Monroe. We were back in this little office at headquarters, and we had so much fun. I mean, I was 23, 24, 25. And during that time, I actually met my husband at work. So he worked for City IT. And I remember specifically because I met him in 2010, and I had started there in 2006. So at some point, it kind of became a little crazy that I knew my husband longer while I was at LMPD than I didn't know him before. And that was kind of strange once that kind of happened. But one of the IT guys accidentally wiped and reformatted like 500 computers. It was a total accident, but it was bad.
500?
It was like most of our Metro
cow.
computers. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, this is 2010, so it was a while ago, and there are a lot more safeguards in place now that that stuff doesn't happen. But I was told by my sergeant at the time to go over to IT and get a ghost boot CD so that he could rebuild our computers from James. And then I walk in, and James is, I had actually seen him several times where we would pass each other because he would be in headquarters sometimes. Well, it turns out he was doing T work on MDTs at headquarters, and then he was moved to kind of a mid-watch in MDT and like help desk stuff. So it was really crazy how we met, because I say this, I owe a lot to, I mean, a lot of my life since I joined LMPD happened because I was here. And a lot of that I'm so thankful for, because I don't know that I would have met my husband in another way. It was interesting the way that happened because it was so corny, and we haven't laughed about this in a while, but we used to. But my coworker, who was an analyst, she contacted his coworker who was working with IT, and they talked to each other and said we're both single, trying to like fill each other out and stuff. And so I decided to give him my phone number kind of like out of the blue. And it was so cheesy because I practice it so much. But I took a blank CD. Just a blank CD, which obviously I don't know. Are CDs even a thing now?
No, they're not. But at least if you say CD, they should at least know what a CD is. So I don't think we're that far past CDs. Go ahead.
I told you I'm getting up there in the elder stage of my career. But I took a blank CD and I wrote my name and phone number on it. And whenever I saw him in the parking lot, I went up to him and I was so nervous and I just shoved it in his hand and said, "This isn't your Ghost Boot CD, but it's something better," or something along that line. So cheesy. And he had no clue what I was talking about. He went back to work and he was like, "There's nothing on this CD." So he calls me at break once he realized that there was a phone number on it, and we kind of like set up a first date and stuff. And it was pretty much since then, it was just he actually proposed to me by writing on a blank CD. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
That's
it
great.
was a really good memory, and
Mhm.
all because of where we both worked at the time, which
So those 500 computers just had to get wiped for that to
yeah.
happen.
The IT director at the time, she used to say that she wanted to use us as a positive spin on, but like I said, there are a lot more safeguards in place now than there were back then. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, 500, that's a lot. Oh, usually
yeah,
you get one or two by accident. Yeah, that's a thing. But 500,
it
that's a
was
lot.
it might not have been 500, but it was hundreds. It was a lot,
Yeah. Man,
and mine was one of them.
yeah. Huh. No,
Yeah.
that's that's interesting that you practice. You keep telling me you're old, and based on when you graduated college, I'm 10 years older than you. So, like if you're old, I'm not sure what that makes me. But yeah, but
Well,
we're already though kindred spirits because like the similar about wanting to go to the police academy and struggling with some of the physical demands, getting into analysis and getting different odd ends jobs there at task as in the beginning, and then just that practice. Practicing before you're going to talk to somebody is really something that I
I
still do even at my age.
I mean, I was 28 and I'd never like given my phone number to a guy that before he asked for it. So I was so nervous,
Oh my
which
God.
again, nowadays looking back at that, it's like, well, that was no big deal. But at the time, it was. But
Yeah, well, if it doesn't work out, then you got to see the guy all the time, right?
yeah, yeah. Luckily, I get to see him now all the time.
Yeah,
But
there you go. There you go. So it
yeah.
sounds like in the beginning they hire four analysts. You're all
Hmm.
stationed there by the executives, and it you get different tasks, but it's also like a little bit sounds like whack-a-mole. Like whatever pops up, they're like, oh, send an analyst to research that. Whatever the issue of the day is, go feed that to one of those four, and they'll take care of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did compstat as so many do in their
Mhm.
careers.
Mhm.
Back then we didn't have it didn't automatically map. Like it wasn't I'm not so old that we had to place dots on the map, but we did have to run macros and things through like crystal reports and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
not crystal reports for that, but we had to run macros in order to have the maps create.
Is
And
that like an access?
that was through ArcGIS.
Okay.
And then we had access and crystal reports and all the kind of stuff that I don't even know if it's used anymore. At least with my team now, we don't use access.
Yeah. Oh man.
We don't have a whole lot of our GIS experiences mostly on like the web version, whereas back then we had like desktop full everything. But some of the analysts now, our statistical analysts still have that kind of stuff. But now that I'm kind of in a different type of analysis, because like you said, we were kind of a catch-all. We did anything and everything that they asked of us. We did stats. We did if a detective needed help, we helped them. During the Kentucky Derby, we would help in real time for that. It was just I did overtime analysis and everything. UCR, NIVERS, all of it. And then when I was eventually promoted in 2014, that is when we really had I think a lot of buy-in from the department to look at analysts in more than just like, I hate to even call it whack-a-mole, but we did everything.
Yeah, jack of all trades, right? You get
Yeah.
asked to do all kinds of stuff.
And then in 2014, we were able to separate a little bit so that we had analysts who started to become experts in specific types of analysis. So we still had some crime analysts, but then we ended up with tactical criminal intelligence analysts and strategic criminal intelligence analysts, and then our statistical analysts. So it was, we went from, I mean, back then it was 4, and I think now we have, I think 35, 38, something like that, analysts for our department.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, we had a lot. Our command through the years have recognized how important analysts, law enforcement analysts are, and have kept that going.
Yeah. So this is a good point to talk about this, because obviously Louisville is unique in that it's a metro, right? So you are a city-county combo.
Yes.
And so most of the analysts that I have on the show, they're either on the county side or the city side. And if they're city side, they're having a chief. And if they're on the county side, they're on a sheriff. So go into the leadership structure of who you were reporting to and who your clients were.
Yeah, so within Metro, we have a chief. There is a sheriff's office within Jefferson County, which is the county that Louisville is in. And I think that the official term is something like Louisville, Jefferson County Metropolitan Government or something along that line. We always just call it Metro. But there is a sheriff's office for the county that does a lot with like court and delivering warrants and things like that. I know that they do more than just delivering warrants, because I know some of them are doing investigations and things like that. But the LMPD, we have our chief, we have 2 deputy chiefs, several, I think 5 lieutenant colonels who are assistant chiefs. And then I don't know how, I have to count how many majors we have. It's maybe 15 to 20. I'd have to go through and actually like count them out. But then below a major is lieutenant, sergeant, officer, detective. But with us, because the unit that I'm in now, we only have professional staff analysts, or those of us who have worked as analysts before. I report directly to a major who reports to a lieutenant colonel. And then I hate to say beneath me, I have 2 managers who report to me, and one of them has a supervisor, and then that group has 18 analysts working a 24/7 unit, and then the other one has 14 analysts that are embedded with divisions and units assisting with long-term investigations and cases and looking at group validation information. Mm-hmm. So it's if that kind of helps with the structure in mind. We do work with the sheriff's office, just not as much as we work with our own department.
Okay. And obviously the sheriff's taking care of the jail and whatnot.
Well, we have a separate jail.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So we have Louisville Metro Corrections that handles our jail, and that's a different agency.
Okay. And that doesn't go through the sheriff?
No.
Oh.
No. Sheriff, actually, if I'm remembering, I don't think that they're part of Louisville Metro like government. I think they're on their, like, they're a separate entity. Mm-hmm. The other thing, like our dispatch is actually through another Metro agency called Metro Safe. So they are not through the police department.
So the 911 and CAD comes from a different department in Metro.
Yeah, they handle emergency services, like emergency management, 911 for all the agencies, fire, EMS, police, and then NCIC as well. So it is interesting because I know a lot of departments have their own internal like dispatchers, and ours are with another agency within Metro government.
Yeah, and I just Googled it real quick. Looks like about 400 square miles, Jefferson County.
Yeah, just shy of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and about 1,000 officers, give or take. That's like Google says 2022, so I don't know how many officers you actually have, but it looks like a little over 1,000. So that's a pretty good ratio of analysts to officers. You said, did you say 38 analysts?
About, yeah, because we have the one group that's 18, and then we have another group that's 14, and then the statistical analysts, there are 3 of those, and then there are 2 or 3 data analysts, And then you have those that are supervisors or managers of the analysts.
Now, the data analysts, what kind of tasks do they get into?
They are in a different section, but they do a lot with a lot of the back-end systems.
So they're probably doing data management as it relates to data processing, pulling data together, databases and whatnot, I'm guessing.
I think so.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
We wouldn't, yeah, no one quote us on that. That's our guess. So, okay.
They're
Well,
always busy.
I'm sure, yeah, you're always going to be busy, yeah, when you're doing data management, because again, you can get in as an analyst, as we're talking about, you can get into so many different roles. So you can spend your whole time dealing with stats if you want to, or your whole time dealing with data issues and data management, or you can get into tactical, spend all your time doing tactical stuff, doing administrative stuff. There's all kinds of data and analysis that needs to be done at various departments, various offices inside a police department.
Yeah, I mean, when I was an analyst and we did all sorts, my favorite was always when something was happening in real time and tactical, which is funny how it turned out that I ended up with our real-time crime center.
So let's get into that a little bit. So as you mentioned, you started out as an analyst, brand spanking new, and you do that for about 8 years before this idea of a real-time crime center comes about. So just take us back to the beginning, like from your point of view, like when you heard about it, like what the idea was, what the plan, how you got involved.
So it was the idea to create the real-time crime center actually came from an event that happened in the city. It was March 22nd, 2014. We had a group of juveniles gathered to memorialize a friend that had been killed. And I'm not exactly sure what happened or how it happened, but we ended up with several robberies, vandalisms, and groups of juveniles around our downtown and in our waterfront park. And it scared a lot of citizens. And the mayor at the time decided to put cameras in our waterfront park. And we had a really forward-thinking major at the time who said, let's not just put security guards in front of these cameras, let's create a real-time crime center and let's staff it with analysts. He was the major over the analysts at the time. He was our major. He knew what analysts could do in a law enforcement profession. The mayor at the time, he wanted it done in, I think they said like a month, which obviously is not really possible.
Yeah. Okay, you got a month.
Yeah. But I mean, we ended up standing up the real-time crime center 24/7 in 9 months. So that was March 22nd. By April, there were cameras within our waterfront park, which I know that the technical guys that were installing those cameras, I think they were like sleeping at work trying to get this done in time before we have this huge fireworks celebration that's the beginning of our Kentucky Derby Festival called Thunder over Louisville and Louisville. And that's on our waterfront and in our waterfront park. So they worked night and day to get those cameras up before that Thunder over Louisville. And then they kind of proposed all of this. And I decided to put in for the promotion to be the starting supervisor over the unit. At first, I was kind of terrified. And my husband and I, we had talked about it. And he told me, give it 3 years. If after 3 years, like going into this, you are dedicating yourself for 3 years. And if you don't like it, then you can find something else. And I thought, I can do that. I can do 3 years. And then now it's been 11. So it is like, once you get into kind of like a law enforcement analysis career, and then you're with people that you work with and you care about them, it is very easy to blink, and then it's 11, 19 years later.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you start looking back and like, oh yeah, working with that person or doing that activity, working on that project. Yeah.
Yep.
The major that you mentioned before, did you say that he was a civilian or is he sworn?
No, he was sworn.
That's what
He eventually actually became major, then lieutenant colonel, then deputy chief, and then eventually chief for a little bit. and then he retired, and now he's a chief of a smaller, we call them, I think they're rural class cities, home rule cities, something like that. With they're smaller jurisdictions within Jefferson County that are not part of LMPD's jurisdiction. They're their own cities in essence, but they're in Jefferson County. And he is now the chief of one of those cities.
Okay. So by the time you had got the position to be supervisor, had like a lot of big decisions been made regarding the day-to-day operations of the Real-Time Crime Center, or was that stuff that you were able to be part of that discussion?
So some of it was already done, as in the job description that I ended up taking over. It was the job description for policy and procedure. They were just trying to do it so quickly. Eventually, I got my own job description that actually talked about what I did. And at the time, we just had crime analysts brought in because we had that job description available. And so that was all done. I was promoted in July of 2014. And then the first thing I remember that I was told whenever I was offered the position was hire your team. And so I had never hired anyone. And my lieutenant at the time, he and I sat down and we interviewed many people and ended up offering to 9, because we started off with 9 analysts. And then one of those analysts he declined right before we started. So we went into this with 8 analysts and myself, and they were hired in August.
Were these all civilian?
They were, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't find at the time, I could not find any other 24/7 real-time crime center that was completely civilianized. Now that's not as strange of a thing. Real-time crime centers really can be what your department needs it to be.
Yeah.
Ours has been civilian staffed by law enforcement analysts from the very beginning. And we've had occasionally like a light duty officer in the unit, but not too often. The managers that I have now, they started off as analysts within the units. Over the years, we've hired a lot of people.
So how many real-time crime centers were there in 2014?
So I remember at that time, Cincinnati had one, St. Louis had one, Albuquerque. I think New Orleans came after, because I remember talking that one of the captains or colonels at New Orleans had asked to speak with me and was asking about hiring analysts in the real-time crime center and how that kind of worked. And so I'm trying to think of I know that there were more than that. Obviously, New York was the first. Boston had one, but it seemed like it was a lot of like larger cities that had them. Chicago had, and then they ended up, I think, splitting into like where every single one of their patrol divisions had their own real-time crime center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Chicago. It's millions, over hundreds of thousands.
You reminded me when you said Cincinnati. I remember the sworn officers made fun of the real-time crime center in the beginning for Cincinnati because they weren't 24/7. So they called them the part-time crime center.
It's over the years, so much of that has changed. Whereas back then, it really was the goal to have a 24/7 real-time crime center. And now real-time crime centers are almost like a policing idea or method rather than just like needing a room of people.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know how they don't all run into each other because I talk to different places and they'll have like, it seems like 5 or 6 in the area. And you're talking about we throw in fusion centers and different jurisdictions. And as you said, there was different divisions that could all have one. So, I mean, obviously you got to communicate, but you still have, it seems like there's a lot of redundancy and maybe some potential for overlap.
You mean within different agencies in the area?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you would have that problem being in Louisville, but I've talked to like Dallas. There's like 3 or 4 or whatever it is that are in the area, and you never know who's doing what.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a fusion center in the Commonwealth. It's in our capital, Frankfurt, and then across the river in Indiana, because a lot of people that aren't from here don't realize that Indiana is like right there. It's
Yeah.
right across the river.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller cities over on the southern Indiana side have created their real-time crime centers that might have one or two people,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still doing the real-time crime center work. They're still doing that real-time work, even though it's not 24/7. But now especially with technology, there's so many more things you can do now outside of an actual room. But we still have our office. We started off with the 8 and myself, and now we have the 18. And then, let's see, it was 4 years ago, they brought the strategic analysts under me as well. Because before that, I just had the tactical real-time crime center analyst. So yeah, a lot has changed in the years since we went live in 2014.
Yeah.
A lot.
So when you're hiring the 8, or you were hiring the 9 that turned into 8, as you mentioned. Yes, take us through, like, what are you and the lieutenant going after? What type of analyst? Do you have certain tasks in mind as you're trying to build this team? Like, what are some keys to the hiring process that you're trying to fulfill?
One of the things back then, and even, I mean, now, that still is one of the biggest, I think, factors of success in an analyst in this type of a role is critical thinking. Having that ability to critical think and to notice detail has been a big factor with hiring. Now, but we didn't in the beginning, but now we do almost like a second type interview with candidates that we're interested in, where we quiz them on noticing detail on camera, of like watching an incident and then telling us what happens, or what did you see, which direction was this, because that's one of the things that with real-time crime center, we're monitoring cameras when a call for service comes out to tell dispatchers and officers what we see and what direction people went. And so it's really important to be able to critically think. I mean, we do more than just cameras. We do workups and other things looking into suspects for criminal purposes, but the cameras is always kind of the thing that I think everyone kind of latches onto.
Yeah.
And they see real-time crime center and they think cameras, and then that's that. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I know a lot of analysts know that throughout the nation, that there's more to it than just that.
Yeah,
But
I always think that the decision making of those that are working in this environment is crucial, because you have access to so much data, and you could take one bit of information, maybe an address, and run it through all the databases, but you could sit there and rerun and go down different rabbit holes and try to uncover different pieces of different connections. And you could really start spinning your tires and like wasting your time, because there's not really anything there, because you can just keep on going if you wanted to. So you have to,
yeah,
the decision has to be of, okay, what's the best return on investment of my time and effort?
yes, yeah. And it's interesting that you said going down the rabbit hole, because that was when I was an analyst and we would do that. You'd end up with like 50 tabs open in Google, and then your computer would lock them and freeze because you had too many tabs open and you were trying to look at too many things at once, because I'm going to open this tab and look at that, and then I'm going to open this tab and look at that. And then the next thing you're just lost in data.
Yeah. So it's tough. So do you have, in the beginning, when it's like 8 or 9 people, is it like 2 per shift? Is that what it was basically? Or
Basically, yeah. I mean, because we went live, it was November 2nd, 2014. So we had hired them in August. They did 11 weeks of training, and I came up with that training plan, which obviously I was an analyst, so we kind of did it all together. And I say that because the original 8, a lot of the things like policies and things we wrote as a team.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't worked in a real-time crime center, and neither had they.
Yeah.
So we kind of built it together as we went. And that went live in November, and we went immediately live 24/7. There wasn't we knew we were going to be 24/7 from the first moment, and we've been 24/7 since. We've only that I can think of actually like closed a few times over the years, and those were just for like a few hours at a time. If the during COVID, we had to disinfect the office. So we had to be out of the office for a few hours. So other than that, though, one of the things that's crazy, and it's not really about analysts, but technology, our video wall, some of the monitors on our video wall are original to the beginning of our real-time crime center. And they have been on mostly 24/7 for almost 11 straight years. And
Oh
I
man.
cannot believe they're still working.
Oh man, that is something else. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Victoria Curtis, and my public service announcement is that despite how we may act, analysts are not omniscient. Please don't just give us a name and tell us to work our magic. We're not witches, we're data people. Please give us context, a report number, a date, literally anything. I'm begging you, just a little crumb of information.
My name is Havelka, and a pet peeve is people who hoard information when we're all supposed to be working together. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's being on a case where someone is holding on to all the pieces of information like a squirrel holding their collection. At the end of the day, we all have the same goal: to solve the problem, investigate, and help get the job done. When we share what we know, everyone wins.
Hi, this is Jennifer Scavotto. I like to tell people to try to find your why, try to find a mantra or a quote that when it is tough in this profession, you can kind of say that quote or your motivational to keep things going. So one of mine happens to be a movie quote. It is do or do not, there is no try. And that is just something that I keep repeating to myself if I need a little inspiration.
So take us back to maybe the first month, or maybe is there a particular story you like to tell on the very beginning? Like obviously you're all new at this. You're all coming together and like, hey, we have this common task. We got to get this whole thing built, and you're trying to do it as fast as you can. They're putting up cameras. You're getting your databases ready. You're getting your computers and everything else in there. Is there a particular event or is there a story there that you like to tell?
The one that I can remember right off the bat that happened, and I think it happened in December after we went live in November, and it was a guy decided to do like parkour on one of our bridges crossing the Ohio River, and it was nighttime. We saw him on camera, the analyst did, and they kind of tracked him, let dispatch know that he was there because he climbed under the bridge and was like doing parkour hanging on the bottom of the bridge over top of the Ohio River. So that one I remember specifically. They eventually got him, and I think he was charged with criminal trespassing. So it wasn't huge. It wasn't a huge thing. Since then, we've witnessed a lot more serious crimes on camera. But that one, I don't know why that one just sticks in my head from the very beginning.
Was he just being goofy and just like hanging there, or was he about to commit suicide? What was he doing?
No, he was having fun. Like he was doing
right.
it. It was like a
a dare.
Yeah, or like I say parkour, but is that a thing anymore?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know.
Back then, that was for fun. People would do that for fun, and I think it was kind of like that he was just like doing it for maybe the fun and the thrill of it. So again, it wasn't a huge thing, but I still remember that one specifically.
Yeah.
That we had on camera, and I think that was maybe the first time that we were mentioned in the news after we went live that we had helped with something.
Yeah, I think it's funny now that I think about it. I think in Cincinnati we had something similar where it was like I forget what the crime was. It wasn't as bad as like jaywalking, but it was like a pretty low level crime that the guy did, and the real-time crime center was able to follow his footpath through the city. And I remember one of the captains said, like, Chief, this is our multi-million-dollar project that just caught you. I can't remember. It wasn't jaywalking. It might have been vandalism or something like that, but it was a joke there for a while.
I mean, in the beginning with us, our real-time crime center did not cost multi-millions.
Yeah.
So we did not go that route. After the analysts, like, they started to know the city, assisting officers, and started to gain some credibility with the officers, because in the beginning there was this, like, who are these people telling us that a suspect is going this direction?
Yeah.
There was one that I remember from early on where one of the analysts was working late watch, and it was a robbery. It was like a home invasion, and the officers got to scene really fast and got a really good description. And the analyst saw a person matching that description walking along the road about 2 blocks from that location. And so that one did end up in an arrest. And that was still early on too, where he was, I think our officers found him and arrested him within like 15 minutes of the home invasion.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think he had even taken like a soft drink, and he still was drinking soft drink when they found him.
Yeah.
But stuff like that was pretty early on, and that was one of the examples that where we could show that we could really be of benefit to patrol officers.
Yeah. And just so I don't get myself into trouble, it might not Cincinnati's might not have been multi-million. Maybe it was multi-hundreds of thousands. So I don't want to get myself in trouble there with my bad memory. But as you develop the real-time crime center, and the more you do, the more you have access to, you're honing in your skills. As you look back now, maybe those that are getting into creating the real-time crime center, what were some things that maybe if you had to do them over again, you wouldn't spend as much time on, or you go a different route? What were some of the lessons learned that you experienced?
Some of the lessons, it sounds crazy to say, but some of the lessons were literally just about the building, the physical building of the unit. Like, I mean, when I was promoted, they were pretty much like, here you go, create this.
Yeah.
And so I made a lot of the decisions. And one of the decisions that I made was we had a raised floor, because we couldn't drill into the floor. So we had a raised floor, and the floor had already been picked out. It was like concrete tiles. And I know this sounds so silly, but it was going to cost so much more to get the concrete sealed. And I was like, I don't really think we need that. And we did. I know it sounds crazy. Yes, you should seal your concrete floors, but it made everything so dusty. So a few years later, our facilities came through and sealed the floors for us. So I know that's so minor and so ridiculous that I would do that again. I would have the floors sealed from the very get-go. But that and the secondary cooling system, again, nothing to do with analysis, but in the beginning, when they built the room, it originally was open to other parts of the building, and then it was closed off. And the analysts would be sitting in the real-time crime center at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would be 85 degrees inside in January, because all of the monitors, all the computers, they were all on, and the boiler system would just send heat directly into the unit. So our facilities pretty early on put in a secondary cooling system, which kind of became a lifesaver, because then the analysts could control a little bit. They couldn't control like massive fluctuations in temperature, but that seems to be one of the things that a lot of people like in their work environment, is to control their temperature. Yeah. And
Yeah, is your real-time crime center, like, where is it located? Is it still by the executive where you were, or is it in a total different area?
No, so we are in the same building with our dispatchers and emergency operations center. So we're within what's called our Metro Safe building.
Okay. That
Our
makes
IT
sense.
department is also here, so we have really good internet. But I say that joking, but I think we're maybe one of 2 or 3 LMPD units within the building. Our new headquarters, which we just had our executive staff move into, is being renovated. We'll be moving to that once. I think our room is supposed to be ready next year sometime. And I'm really excited about being back in headquarters, because right now, in order to have in-person meetings with anyone, you have to drive everywhere because we're spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
So
But at
really excited. I'm
but
really
at
excited.
headquarters, there's not going to be too many people at headquarters on third shift, is there? Going to get kind of lonely.
Well, eventually, so we have within records, we have our service center, and they are 24/7. They take online tips, anonymous and known, and they also take some reports over the phone. They are professional staff, civilian as well. They're currently 24/7. And so once they move into the building, I think they are going to be I think we're supposed to be on the third floor. I'm not sure which floor they're supposed to be on, but there will be other 24/7 units within the building, from what I've been told.
All right. So then you're getting well established at this point, and the center grows. You work through the kinks and establish what you guys are going to do in major events, and then you get a major event. So it's what, 2020. We get into COVID. There's a police involved shooting that then involves protests. Your real-time crime center then goes into emergency mode. Talk a little bit from your perspective as the city is dealing with the protest and the aftermath of the police involved shooting.
Yeah. So during COVID, that was at the kind of beginning of 2020. I don't know how other departments did with their analysts, if they had them work from home. I know a lot of city employees in Metro would work from home during that. We couldn't, though. So we were here 24/7 through COVID, which I bring up the few times that we closed. We closed like maybe 2 or 3 times when they had to come in and disinfect our office because someone would be exposed to COVID or something. But we had protests occur that summer, like a lot of cities had, and our analysts went. We were already 24/7, but it was kind of like all hands on deck, and the analysts were working 12 to 16-hour shifts for a lot of that summer. I remember the first 2 weeks, I think I worked maybe 95 hours each week. It was pretty much I was at work, I'd go home and sleep and then come back, and that was it. I know a lot of the analysts did the same thing. And at that time, I think my office, that's part of the real-time crime center, we ended up having to put a cot in it in case the analyst needed a break. No one ever had to like actually sleep here, but it was there just in case they needed a break and needed to lay down. So I don't think I was even in my office for maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe. I was mainly in the EOC or with the analysts.
Sounds like you've grown. I mean, obviously in this situation, giving it's an emergency type situation, do you have like twice as many analysts on duty then?
Yeah, we went to 12-hour shifts. And so it instead of 3 shifts a day, we split it up so that there were 2. And it was pretty much a trade-off because for a little bit there during a state of emergency, it is all hands on deck and it is off days are canceled and you are there. We were still in our office downtown during that entire summer.
And some of the protests were like right outside your building, right?
Yeah, that was our building is downtown and the protests were primarily centered in our downtown area.
Obviously pretty stressful. You said all summer to do that for that long a period of time. That's a lot. Canceled vacations, canceled time off. As you think back during this time, is there anything particular that sticks out?
I almost quit. I think that it was probably, I think a lot of that was just nationwide. A lot of people almost quit or thought about quitting if they didn't quit. But I remember I went into the conference room and it was probably 11 o'clock at night, and I was upset, and I called my husband and was like, I'm gonna quit right now and come home. And he said something to me that I still remember to this day. He said, you cannot walk out on your team. You can't leave them in the middle of this. And he said, right now you can't, you're not in a place where you can kind of make that kind of decision. And so he said, when this is over, if you still want to leave, we'll figure it out and you can go somewhere else. And I mean, that was 5 years ago, and I'm still here.
You're still deciding,
So
right?
no, I've made my decision. I think that this department has a lot to offer to the community. It constantly feels like it's growing and changing, and I feel like we're headed in the right direction.
As I've started the podcast, pretty much right around the time that you're dealing with this in the summer 2020, one of the things that I didn't anticipate a lot of analysts talking about is the mental impact on them. And I think it's great that this has become such a big discussion, and the impact on analysts and the impact on all civilians, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sworn too, but we're talking about going back 10, 20, 30 years. That wasn't something that was necessarily talked about, researched, or really had any policies or procedures on. One of the big improvements in the office of the analyst world is just the monitoring and a better understanding, maybe I'll use that, of the mental health impact on analysts.
Absolutely. So during that time was really the first time when we had kind of interaction with our peer support team, where peer support, it was always said peer support was here for everybody in the department, and then they really were.
That's good.
They were here for all of us. And then since then, our department has really honed in on wellness in several different factors, but mental wellness, financial wellness, physical wellness. And so we now have a wellness center that's specifically dedicated to our department, and it's for all of us, including professional staff team as well. So we have access to a lot of resources. We have access to a gym, and we have access to psychologists. They really worked hard. Our foundation really jumped in with that. And it's awesome how it's for everyone in the department, because it is recognized. Dispatchers can experience trauma during a normal shift. The analysts in our center, they can experience trauma. We've seen things happen on camera that I wouldn't want other people to see. And we've had incidents occur where we've had to call peer support and make sure that the analysts are taken care of, or at least know that they have the option to reach out if they need help.
They're not alone,
Because we've had analysts on duty when officers are killed on the line of duty. It's difficult for everyone. It's difficult to listen to the radio when that's happening, or when there's a serious incident, a critical incident that's occurring. But now the mental health and well-being of all of us within the department is looked at. It's a great development in law enforcement and policing.
Given that you were on the brink of quitting, I'm curious, was there any policy changes, or was anything that either the real-time crime center changed, or maybe the department as a whole changed in terms of a critical event? As you mentioned, you're on 12, 16-hour shifts for long periods of time.
Yeah, our department has done a lot of policy changes, a lot of studies and looking at improvements on how we can improve as a department. In the 11 years that I've been here, I know my management style has changed a lot. In the beginning, I was so concerned with making sure that we were taken seriously, making sure that we were seen in that positive light, especially by the officers that we were supporting. And I was I had very strict things that I was like, we have to do things this way, and we don't want any, I don't know how to phrase that.
It's kind of funny because we've talked about it, like going through our 20s and even into our 30s. Like, there's certain things that happen when you're in 20s that, like, you're really worried about. You haven't done a lot of things. You haven't experienced a lot of things. You don't want to get pigeonholed or get the reputation for certain stuff. But once you get through your 20s and your 30s, you can just get more experience under your belt. You get projects, you have successes and whatnot. Some of that anxiety about, like you mentioned, buy-in just kind of go away, because it's like, okay, look, I've done this. I'm kind of part of the show.
Yeah, and now, I mean, with our real-time crime center tactical analysts And the strategic analysts, we have our strategic analysts embedded with
Mm-hmm.
divisions where they're working hand in hand, side by side with detectives to work on long-term investigations. Whereas, I mean, that's something that we didn't do until fairly recently.
Yeah.
And it seems like now all the detectives want an analyst in their office, which I think is a positive and massive credit to the current analysts that are in that situation, that they've done so well and
Mm-hmm.
have built those relationships where they're asked to go to meetings to discuss things within the division that they're working. They're asked to look at a hotspot. They're asked to do hotspot maps on where are stolen vehicles being recovered. So I do think that that's, and again, a credit to the analysts that have been embedded and are currently embedded with our divisions, that the detectives have come to rely on that analyst being with them and assisting them with cases.
Good. All right. Well, let's move on to our advice section. What advice do you have for our listeners, whether it's someone trying to get into the field, a new analyst, an experienced analyst? Maybe there's something that you'd recommend that they study today because it's going to be important down the road.
For someone wanting to join the profession, when you have an interview, make sure interviews now, they can be in person or online. Back when we started, online interviews were not a thing. You did
Mm-hmm.
everything in person. And so back then, I would always, a pet peeve of mine would be when someone would walk in wearing like flip-flops and jeans to a job interview.
Yeah.
Now you can't tell that when you're on an online call. But one of the things that I think is really a positive with a candidate is when they've actually looked at and kind of researched your department or the
Mm-hmm.
job that they, you wouldn't believe how many times we've interviewed a candidate who doesn't know what a real-time crime center is, or like it's in this day you
Doesn't
can
know.
Google just about
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework before your job interview, and don't be afraid in the interview to talk yourself up on like what you've done and take credit for what you've done, because a lot of people, myself included, sometimes have that tendency to say like, well, it wasn't just me, and I wasn't like, or I didn't have a whole lot to do with this, or like when I became an analyst, I worked in a real estate office. I was an assistant, like an administrative assistant in a real estate office, and I went from that fresh out of college to being a law enforcement analyst. And I remember in my interview, the thing that I kind of connected the two together was that I had created a database of properties at the location that I could reference and see what work that I had done in the previous in before on which properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that as a, like, I didn't have database experience or access experience other than this. And so trying to make sure that potential things that you've done that could be related, that you explain those, because we hire analysts from all different fields.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our analysts weren't analysts before they came here. We've hired from corrections, probation and parole, loss prevention.
Yeah.
We've hired one of the call takers from our dispatch. We've had some analysts come to us from like a mental health facility or the military, or we had one who came from like a cell phone store that he worked at. He sold cell phones, but the thing that most of them had in common was that they had those critical thinking skills, the attention to detail, and they sold themselves.
Yeah. I still find it hard to this day to sell myself.
I do too.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people that I know that struggle with that, it's like, oh, they see other people that are like completely full of shit. So they don't want to go on that aspect of like totally blowing up, making a bigger deal out of something that really wasn't all that big a deal, right? So there's
Yeah.
that art of love, and it probably goes into what you said about selling yourself. There's that art of it. You're not necessarily boasting, but at the same time, what you did mattered.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that would be probably my advice to someone going into the profession.
All right, let's move on to personal interest then. So you're a mom of four, so I know that keeps you busy,
I'm a mom of a 4-year-old.
a 4-year-old. 4-year-old. I don't know why I want to give you more kids than one, but I had this. We were on the prep call yesterday. I was like, I don't know why I thought you had at least 2 kids. For some reason in my head, you have multiple kids, Jennifer.
No, I have one daughter who is beyond perfect. I mean, you understand what I mean by that is that she'll always be perfect in my eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's 4 years old, and not to get like too much into like the TMI stuff, but I mean, we had struggled with infertility for a while, and it took I think 6 years to get pregnant with her. And so we're just beyond blessed that we have her, let alone any others that would come, but also, we're just lucky to have her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fun age. It really is. It's interesting as we're friends on Facebook, and I think one of the best features on Facebook is like it shares the memories. So my kids are 16 and 13, so they're like I get memories every day about them as toddlers, as 4-year-olds in school and all this other stuff. So it's just, but that time as they're 4, like it is a special time.
Yeah, right now we're in that phase of we hear want to play 50 times a day, even while we're playing.
Yeah.
We're like, honey, we're doing that right now.
Yeah.
But she hasn't gotten into the why phase yet, which I've heard is coming.
It might not. Like my son went at 4, like he just liked to do what he wanted to do. So when we were at daycare, we would pick him up and we'd be like, yeah, Eisen, he really didn't want to do group activities today. He was fine doing what he wanted to, but then when we told him in the group, he kind of threw a fit type of thing. So
Yep.
So when I would drop them off, I got to the point where I would say, be a good listener, have fun, and do group activities. Like like I would always give them 3 things like as a pep talk, and like my wife just still says that, do group activities.
That's awesome. I'll have to do that with her because she loves to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the Instagram posts where they make jokes about my daughter is either gonna be the CEO of a company or like a leader of a prison gang or something like that. Yeah. And she's very headstrong even for a 4-year-old. Now, I mean, she's amazing. We have our family. We have a lot of fun with her, and like with tomorrow is Halloween, and this is the first year where she has really understood all of that, and she picked out her own costume for the first time. So nice. I just took her shopping and we were looking at these beautiful princess dresses, and I was like, do you want a princess dress? And she chose a dragon costume.
Nice.
And secretly my heart was like, yes. I mean, it's a really pretty dragon costume. It's like pinks and purples and teals and stuff like that. But even now she'll walk around the house in her dragon costume.
Yep.
And then want to go pretend trick or treat around the living room. So that's a fun age with that.
Yeah.
Especially now that she understands.
Nice. Yeah. And then I don't know really how to transition to this. Your health is good?
For now. I mean,
for now.
Say that.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Again, this is personal interest, getting kind of more into personal things, but I just for the listeners, let's talk about your cancer diagnosis, the story, and obviously you're in a lot better shape now, so that's great.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about this with people because it's one of those stories that you never think that you're going to be on the end of hearing from a doctor that you have cancer, and then I don't know, what ended up happening, and it's actually started in 2020. But this is whenever I first noticed kind of a lump on my breast, and I had multiple mammograms over the years. Got pregnant and had my daughter, and ended up multiple mammograms. I think I had 2 or 3, and every single one of them, the doctor said it was a cyst, but it was painful. Like if you accidentally hit it, it hurt. And so I went to a dermatologist who sent me to a surgeon who said, well, it's a cyst. I can't remove it. You have to go get it drained. So I went to the hospital to get it drained, and they said, this isn't a cyst that can be drained. You have to go back to the dermatologist.
Oh,
So I went back to the dermatologist, who sent me back to the surgeon, who finally, whenever I was like, I don't care, just I want it gone. And by that point, it had turned into 2 lumps instead of 1. And so the doctor, she went ahead and did it. And then it came back as stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which, crazy enough, that it was a lump on my breast. It was not breast cancer, and it was not skin cancer, even though it was completely contained within the skin. It was blood cancer. So I had to go through a pretty intensive chemo treatment, because when you have like a blood cancer like that, it can pop up anywhere, from as I learned. So there was, the chemo was the kind that had your hair fall out and stuff, because it had to kill just about anything and everything anywhere in your body, because blood cancer could pop up anywhere. So we did that. I did 2 months of chemotherapy, and that was like every 3 weeks. It was going in for another round, and had a port and a bone marrow biopsy and all that kind of stuff. And
Ooh, that bone marrow stuff's, was that pretty? I've heard that's pretty painful.
it wasn't. And the reason it wasn't is the hospital that I went to have it done. I hesitate to say they drug you to the hilt, but they they put you're awake, but you can't. I didn't feel anything other than the pressure, and they have you kind of so loopy that I don't know, even if it had felt pain, if I would have even registered it. So in that sense, because I had heard horror stories and I was terrified to get the bone marrow biopsy, and then it happened, and I was like, that was nothing other than like I could feel the tapping on my bone, which was kind of weird. But yeah.
So they removed the cyst, and then they did the testing, and that's when they found out, and it had missed, like, that cancer went undetected through so many other appointments that you had, right?
Yeah. So the mammograms, they were looking specifically at things within at least from what I can understand, they were looking at like more of your breast tissue than the skin on your breast. And so it looked like a cyst to all the mammograms. But I've had several doctors and nurses and medical professionals tell me, the fact that I advocated for myself, and I said I want it gone, even though I have no reason, at the time I had no medical reason to really want it gone other than it hurt. And I pushed it and pushed it and pushed it until someone finally listened, and then lo and behold. And I still think about that, because I had that lump all the way back in 2020. And
oh, wow.
So I'm like, how long was that actually growing in my system, or building, that I didn't know about it, and probably wouldn't have known about it had I not had them remove it.
Yeah, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just thinking at any time it could have started spreading aggressively.
Yeah. So with mine, it was stage 2, because it was in 2 different places, which is how they categorized this specific type of cancer. I don't think they do that for all cancers, but with this one, it was in my underarm lymph nodes and my breast my breast skin, my skin on my breasts. And so I had to do like PET scans and all that kind of stuff. And I during that process, LMPD was amazing. My major at the time, who's now a deputy chief, she was fantastic, and like, do what you need to do. Like, we're behind you. But the real thing that I think I came to really understand with that experience was just how caretakers aren't given enough credit for what they do, especially when you have a family member who's ill. Because my husband took care of everything. Like, he took care of me. We had a toddler. This was 2013 when this happened. So she was 2 years old, and he took care of her, took care of me, worked full time, kept the house up. Like, I still don't know how he did it all.
Yeah.
Like, we would have family members who would bring us meals and sign up, like after chemo especially. But the type of chemo I had changed my taste buds during that time. So like nothing really tasted good
Yeah.
during that period. But my family and a lot of friends would bring us food, and that was really helpful because I was too weak to like cook all the time, and
Yeah.
he was doing everything else.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that a lot of people don't realize, because they're like, well, you had cancer. And I'm like, yeah, but I slept. Like, not that I had it easy by any stretch, but I would go to chemotherapy, and then I would come home and I would be pretty much asleep for
Yeah.
days afterwards. And he had to do everything else. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people recognize or realize how much caretakers have to do when their loved ones are going through something like that. Because I don't know what I would have done without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did it take from like maybe your first chemo to like just maybe feeling, it's kind of, for lack of a better word, normal? Like maybe your taste buds came back and your strength came back. Like how long was that period from like beginning of chemo to like feeling like yourself?
So I guess I'm one of those weird people that have like dates. So I was diagnosed on May 31st.
Mm-hmm.
And I started chemo on July 27th. And then September 26th was the day that I was told I was in remission and that it was gone. But I had to do one more round of chemo. So I did 4 rounds of chemo over like a 2-month period. And then it took, that was 2023. So some tastes didn't come back until probably late 2024.
Okay.
Like, I used to drink coffee all the time. That took a while to come back, where coffee didn't taste good for a while. One time I made a grilled cheese sandwich that I accidentally burnt, and it did not taste burnt at all. Like nothing. It tasted completely fine. And I mean, I even took a picture because it was like burnt to a crisp.
Oh,
And
man.
my mom is like, don't eat that. It can cause cancer.
Your bellyache.
Yeah. But it tasted completely fine to me at the time. And like, whenever you'd go to McDonald's and get chicken, like the McNuggets and stuff, I would always get the barbecue sauce. And for a really long time, that it did not taste good at all. And I would, if I had nugget, it was with nothing, and it was just plain, because that's the only way it tasted good. Which is, looking back now, like I'm like, oh, that's weird. No dipping sauces at all like that. Toothpaste was too strong, so I had to use like kids' toothpaste for a while, because it would burn my mouth. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people go through. And I mean, I like to tell people about my story on like how I advocated for myself and got through it, that my husband was so supportive. Not everyone has that type of support system. I was lucky to have that support system. But I sometimes I even look at it and I'm like, well, it really wasn't like a serious cancer. But I mean, it was cancer. Like,
Yeah, that doesn't compute.
Yeah, like it's, I mean, because, and I say that, especially women who are diagnosed with more serious versions of cancer, like breast cancer and stuff, and ovarian cancer, things like that. Like they go through a lot of stuff that, I mean, it does kind of feel like, well, I did chemo for 2 months, and some people do it for years. And so like, I really didn't, like, mine really wasn't that bad, but it's still, you look at it and you're like, but it was still cancer.
Yeah.
So, but the type of cancer I had, the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, from what the oncologist told me, it's not a genetic condition that causes that, but you can have, if you have a genetic mutation and it gets exposed to specific types of chemicals, it can do that. And some others in my family have had that exact same type of cancer. So I would assume we have the genetic mutation. And who knows what kind of chemical.
That's where I was going next. I was just like, wait a minute. I know are you originally from Indiana?
Yes, Southern Indiana, right across from Louisville. Yeah.
What's in the water there? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I still live there in
Yeah.
Southern Indiana,
I
but
got you.
this, yeah, I don't, who knows? It could have
You
been
know,
anything, especially
yeah.
with nowadays. Like, you just never know what it was. And my current oncologist thinks that he's pretty much said he doesn't think it'll come back, even though I'm obviously still terrified that it will. And
Yeah.
I think anyone who experiences something like that will always have that in the back of their mind.
Yep.
Like, is it going to come back?
Well,
But
hey, just like you did before, stay on top of it, right?
yeah, that's all you can do, and advocate for yourself, even when others won't listen.
Yeah.
Only thing
Well,
you can do.
well, very good. Hey, look, I'm so glad that you're better and you had a chance to catch up and
Yeah.
talk today and whatnot. I guess one thing I didn't talk to you about that maybe I should, just on a lighter note, you obviously live outside of Louisville. Are you and your husband bourbon drinkers, or is like bourbon overrated?
No. So my husband does not drink. I will drink bourbon, but
Yeah.
I prefer a really good red wine.
Ah.
Especially there some of the red wines that are made here, they
Mhm.
age them in bourbon barrels, and
Yeah.
those are fantastic.
Yeah, we were actually, my wife and I were just in Louisville for a couple getaway back in August. And so we really enjoyed. Of course, we did the bourbon thing, but we did enjoy some wine and some different aspects of Louisville as well. So it's
Yeah.
not just bourbon, is what you're telling us.
Oh no, there's some really great wineries around here as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. But the bourbon obviously it's the best.
Yeah.
That's what we're known for in the region. But Louisville has really become almost like a foodie place now,
Yeah.
where it's like some of the restaurants here are like so good.
We really enjoyed our time. We were there just a couple of days, but we really enjoyed our time there.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy living in the region and the area. It's changed a lot over the last, I mean, I've lived here my entire life, so, but even from this time I started at LMPD, it's changed a lot, just in a lot more, I guess, kind of touristy stuff.
Mhm.
But like, again, the food, like some of the chefs around here have really like upped their game with food.
Nice.
So yeah, and then again, the red wine in bourbon barrels is just, whoever decided to do that, they did a really great thing.
Yeah.
That
All
sounds
right.
weird, but
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, our last segment of the show is Words to the World, and this is where you can promote any idea that you wish. Jennifer, what are your words to the world?
So absolutely advocate for yourself, not only medically, but just in general. And another thing that I would really like to say is to give other people grace. I have a hard time giving myself grace for things because I'm very hard on myself for things. And sometimes I forget that I need not only give myself grace, but other people. And I think giving other people grace, I think, is something that is really necessary and something a lot of people don't think about.
Well, very good. Well, I leave every guest with you've given me just enough to talk bad about you later. But I do appreciate you being on the show, Jennifer. Thank you so much, and you be safe.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Analyst Talk with Jason Elder. You can show your support by sharing this and other episodes found on our website at www.leapodcasts.com. If you have a topic you would like us to cover or have a suggestion for our next guest, please send us an email at leapodcasts@gmail.com. Till next time, analysts, keep talking.